Hello everyone, Matthew here. So today we have a pretty cool project. Last week I went and collected a huge tree in Montreal and I discovered it was white oak. I wasn't very sure. And I was able to get a bunch of blanks about this size out of it. So that got me thinking. My grandfather is also a wood turner. So I had an idea to cut out two identical blanks from the same piece, and we each would receive one and try and make something out of it, and then compare and see our different approaches. So I'm going to get into this, and my initial idea is a wide rim bowl, but we'll see how it goes. So let's get into it. All right, so here's the piece. I initially marked center here, and you can see the scribed in circle. However, this blank has some splits in it. So I have this big split that I kind of filled with glue, but I have all these other small splits. So my game plan is to actually make the hole here for the screw chuck, and this will be the bottom. So hopefully these splits will turn out. And because my idea is to make a wide rim bowl, this rim will be significantly wider than the actual bowl. So these splits should come out. So that's my initial game plan. So I'm going to scribe in a new circle on this side, drill in a hole, and mount it on the screw chuck. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just thread this on. Boom. Tighten that up. Now that is all nice and tight. So we'll be using 5/8 bowl gouge. So we'll start by knocking the corners off. I'm actually going to put my face shield on because I don't want one of these cracks splitting and exploding in my face. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So start that up. Running at 1,000. Now for the crack, I'm listening for any change in pitch. So you can hear the sound. Any change in that sound, I want to stop and reevaluate. Move your ass closer. Just check. I'm going to actually go reprofile this gouge. But as you can see, this split is almost gone. Right? It's there, a little bit there, but very not that worrying. I'm going to just go reprofile this. All right. Yeah, almost no more split. So very not that concerning. So the plan was for a wide rim bowl. So what I'm going to do is I would like the rim to be, I'm going to true this up first. I think as soon as this is trued up, I'll be able to get a good idea of how big I want the rim. come from this side. So that's round, and there's not that many splits. So there's a split here, and some splits there. So what I want, I'll also true this rim up, because if it's untrue, I'll true it up. So the rim, I want to be not super thick. So I think about there is not horrible. So the bowl needs to go up to a rim that's about that thick from there. So the first thing to do is get rid of those splits. So because it's now balanced, you could actually yeah. No more splits. All right, so no more splits. Now the tenon. What size tenon should... This is going to be a smaller bowl than this. So I actually can use my shark jaws. And the tenon should be about, just say that's the rim, about that size. I think that would be quite a nice size tenon. So we'll start with that, and if we have to make it smaller, we'll just make it smaller. So on the line, bring in, bring out, and just pull. So bring in, pull out. Good. Now this is a dovetail. Actually, I can use another chuck for this. I'll use another chuck. So now we want to go from there to the rim and leave some. So we'll go all the way up to there. Like that. So that vibration sound is two things. I'm not putting enough pressure against the rest, or because the surface of that's attached to the screw check isn't perfectly flat, there's wiggle room, very, very slight wiggle room, that it could move. And that's what's creating the vibration. It's by no means going to come off, but it just creates that little vibration. We'll just get the shavings out of the way. Alright. Now, that's a little bit thicker than I would have expected or would have wanted. So I'm just going to... That's pretty good. I can still... I can... That's nice. So it's going and flowing upward. However, I think this pinning is a little bit big. I will, I will make it a little bit smaller. Now that's going to fit in my shark drawers. So my shark drawers, well, actually, as we're choosing chucks, and as you can see, no splits. So that's another design feature that I like with these kinds of bowls. This is actually the second one I made, is that if you have splits here, it's fine because you'll remove a lot of material and you'll still be able to have that wide diameter. And having this thick allows you to not have it snap off. So I'm just going to see if this is going to fit my 75 mil chuck. I'm pretty sure it will. Like 90% sure. Yes. That's actually perfect. I don't use this chuck that often, but when I do use it, it makes, the reason I don't use it as much is it has a straight jaws, so they're less versatile, but they still work quite nice. So I'm going to make a little foot design because this is all nice and it's very smooth. It's already been, there's no major demarcation, so I'm just going to make a little foot design. First thing is to get this concave. So I'm actually going to do a very simple thing. Just raise the rest a little bit. You have a square end scraper. Just like that. Just like that. And then spindle gouge. There we go. Boom shakalaka. So that's quite nice. So a little bit of tear out, but that will most likely sand out. We want to know if that's concave, so it always sits level. Maybe to make it a little bit more. So drop the rest. So I quite like this. I'm just wondering if I wouldn't want that to be a little bit sharper. But no, this is nice. Right, so move that out of the way. And we're going to sand. So for the tear out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a drill sanding device because it and go against the pattern of the grain. So if it's turning that way, I want to turn this way so that so I'm going on the opposite side. And this allows to get rid of that little tear out that there is. There's not a lot of it, but there's a little. So I like to start with 80 grit. I know that's quite aggressive, but if you're going down to 400, it really doesn't matter. So I'm probably going to speed up the video because there's no point just watching me sand a bowl. And then we'll go and put it in the chuck for the inside. All right. Now that's all very nice. Very, very, very nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stain this and also put beeswax. So to stain this, I'm going to use linseed oil. So linseed oil first, so just a little cloth. Just dab it in some linseed oil. That there. This is an advantage of using a screw chuck, is that you can actually finish this side of the bowl before even going on to the inside. So dry part of the cloth, to just put that in. And then beeswax. So stick of beeswax, just let it melt into the turning. Then you go with the sock. Oh, it smells like beeswax right now. Such a beautiful smell. Wood turning is something to do with feel, but it has so much to do with your nose. It's crazy. Like each wood smells differently. Yeah, it's just, and when you use all natural finishes, it just makes the whole process just, look at that. That's like glass. You can actually see light reflecting. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but whew! Now the scary part is to do the inside, because it might look nice now, and if you blow up the bowl while doing the inside, it's kind of not worth it. So all that was holding on about, I'm actually going to measure that. All that was holding on 1 centimeter of screw. And it didn't wobble. It didn't want to come off. It went perfectly. So for any person and this cost me about, what, $20 to make? So instead of buying these face plates and these screws, just buy a screw chuck. You can buy the 3-in-1 from Vicmar, which is something I would like to get, but do not have the money for it now. Or just make one with a wood screw and a piece of wood, and you can get a faceplate. And then just on and off. No drill, no screws, no drill holes. It's just, yeah. So let's do the inside. So I'll flip the camera angle, and we'll start the inside. Placed in the chuck. It has a cloth on one side to make sure that there's no chuck marks, because this chuck has little grooves on the end of the jaws. So even if it's the perfect diameter, it's still going to mark. So that just prevents that. So now we're just going to start off, before we do anything, to just true up this side to make it flat. So we'll start doing that. There we go. That's flat. Now, the rim of this thing has to stick out, but it can't stick out further than it is on this side. So I'm just going to eyeball that. So the rim is about up to there. So that's going to be rim. The rest of it is going to be hollowed. So I actually have an idea. I'm having a design choice problem. I'm wondering if I transition into the bowl or I have a clear demarcation. I think I'm just going to have a clear demarcation. I think it's just going to look nicer. So now we're going to start hollowing. I start from the center and I go down. Alright, so I had a little problem with the camera. So I have to fix a few things. So we're just going to keep hollowing it out. We haven't changed steps. Now I'm nowhere deep enough So I'm on the right track. All right. So I like to stop the lathe a couple of times. So I'm getting very thin here. And I think I know the reason for it. The reason for it is when I'm looking like this, I see a cylinder like that. And in reality, the cylinder starts behind. So what's deceptive is this rim. So even if you go in if you don't go in straight in and you go in kind of at an angle, which is kind of what you always want to do, because these enclosed rim bowls, when there's a little bit of, the rim's a little bit enclosed, it just feels nice to pick up. But that can leave that thin. So here, I check with my calipers. I don't often use calipers. I try to avoid using them. I tend to go by feel. But just to show you guys, that's about, yeah, it's about that thick. So it's basically the final thickness. So that means I have to be very careful with how I proceed at the top. So I only am going to go on the bottom. And you don't want to go too thin at the bottom because you don't want to punch through the end. So actually, I think the rim is going to stay this size, which still looks nice. All I'm going to do is just make it go inwards. So from here, actually that's not bad. I'm deliberately leaving that little ridge because it just gives a nice detail. It's a nice detail. So it's a little bit. So yeah. And now all that needs to be done is the bottom. I'm actually gonna go with a 1/2 inch. Now that looks nice. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now all that needs to be done is I have to get the bottom down. So just to make sure I'm doing this, I usually don't do this kind of stuff, but because I'm filming it, I don't want to screw it up. So that's about where I have to go down. The rest is kind of already the right thickness. There we go. Yeah, that's good. That doesn't need to go any thinner. I'll just raise the rest up just a tiny bit. Grab a round nose scraper and just go in. Do one pass just to get everything smoothed out. Make sure the rest is raised, and because this is not a negative reg scraper, you want to tilt the handle up, because if you go straight in, it's gonna catch. Okay, so. You don't need much. You're not hogging out material with this tool. That's not the goal of it. Usually I like to have one hand on this side and the other hand on the top, because of this rim. I'm feeling like I don't want to do that. There's just a little bit of ridge here. So I'm just gonna that's pretty good. I can go I could actually start up here. So I'm just gonna. Yep. Yes. That's pretty nice. It doesn't feel too thick. Let's just check the thickness. I don't want it to be too thick. If it's too thick, yeah, it can actually go down just a tad. Thick bowls have their place, but in my opinion, this small, like this size, it's too small to be very thick. That's feeling pretty good. And I'm feeling, yeah, that's perfect. So now that is going to get sanded. So again, we're going to use the drill chuck thingy for sanding because it gets rid of torn out grain, which we don't want. Let's start that up. I like to do it on this side. You could also do it on that side, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I want to do it on this side. You don't have to check this. This is what I like to do. I like to do 80 first. Is that see if there's any get out by hand. By hand. Without labeling. That thing's more good. Just get it all without labeling. Without labeling is not running. You don't touch it on the rollers, which is very not very So that is what it is. These are hard to finish. Actually, you get more. That's pretty good. So start that up. If that feels quite nice. So we'll start 80. We'll go 120. 150. You want to make this? You better go. You better. And 400. Pretty nice. So there's just a little bit of torn out grain there. Put that by hand. Can't let the machine do all the work. There we go. And now for the wax and the polish. So just grab the oil. It just looks beautiful. I just love having the oil. Then stick a beeswax. And salt. And turn it off while the sock is still on. Wow, that looks nice. and it's not too thick, which is not something. There you go. Scrub this. It's maybe a little thick in the bottom, but I'm not too fussed. So that is a nice bowl. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this challenge. I'm very happy with the results. So see you next time. Happy turning. See you next time.